We all remember several years ago when there was a real crisis in the British Isles. There was an outbreak of what we call BSE, so the media often calls it mad cow disease, and then another outbreak of major proportions of foot and mouth disease. So here in the United States, then, we became certainly very concerned that such tragedies wouldn't occur to our livestock industry, and lots of folks involved with livestock and some of the agencies that work with livestock producers became interested in trying to figure out better ways of finding diseased animals, being able to trace them as rapidly as possible to stop any potential spread of these kinds of diseases. Now there is a new federal law, federal rule, that is coming onto the books and will become effective March 11th of this year, and it's called the Animal Disease Traceability Rule. So we've invited Dr. Rod Hall, our state veterinarian. He's with the Animal Industry Division of the Oklahoma Department of Agricultural, Food and Forestry. And Dr. Hall, I'd like to have you give us a little bit of an update as to what this new traceability rule is about and what some of the things that folks need to be concerned about as we move forward in this new time frame.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Glenn. The thing I would like to say to start with is we have had this animal disease traceability for many years, particularly back in the days, back 25, 30 years ago when we were fighting brucellosis and tuberculosis was a bigger issue than it is now. We were identifying those cattle with permanent official identification because of all the brucellosis testing, tuberculosis testing, the calf foot vaccinations that we were doing to our heifer calves. The thing I'd like to stress here in Oklahoma is that our producers are going to see very little change because of this rule. We were very fortunate 4 years ago when we stopped testing cattle for brucellosis in our livestock markets. We worked with our producers, with the livestock markets themselves, and we were able to maintain identifying cattle that go through our livestock markets and recording that identification. And we actually saw this coming, so we started renewing those databases with the identification in an electronic form that we can search more easily. So we are pretty much up to date on this. I think, as I say, our producers, our livestock markets are going to see very little difference because of this rule.
As I understand it, Dr. Hall, this primarily just affects interstate movement of livestock. And so to help people better understand it, let's use a couple of examples. Let's say I live in northeast Oklahoma and I'm going to sell some cull cows this spring, and I choose to sell them at a livestock market in another state, such as Joplin. Mm-hmm. How will that affect me?
Right now, we don't think that there will be any difference in the way producers are doing that. In the past, because the livestock markets do identify those cattle and collect that identification, and Joplin has a real good system to do that, we have not required any special identification or documentation for animals going from an individual premise in Oklahoma to a livestock market in another state. Same way we have a lot of producers in Texas that come to some of the markets along our southern border. So right now it doesn't look like there will be any difference in the way those producers operate. The animals will be identified at the market. The documentation will be made there.
If I'm a seed stock producer and I have bull customers in several different states, what differences will this new rule mean for me?
Once again, Glenn, not much difference, because right now the other states are already requiring that breeding cattle have to be officially identified and they must be listed on a health certificate. So those producers are already having to work with their veterinarians to get the health certificate, get those animals identified, and to meet the expectations of the state of destination that they're going to. So those things that are required by this rule are pretty much already being done by our seed stock producers here in Oklahoma.
And finally, as I understand, this rule primarily is affecting older cattle. What about if I have a set of calves, straight off the cow, weaned calves, that I'm going to sell in another state?
Right now, once again, no change. This rule only affects sexually intact animals that are 18 months of age or older. So those younger stocker calves that are moving back and forth, or even calves that have been on grass for a while and going to a feedlot in Texas or Colorado or Kansas, would not have to have any special identification. They will need a health certificate just like they do now.
Okay. And if a producer has questions about this new rule or about other rules involving interstate shipment of cattle, who can they contact?
They can contact us at the Department of Agriculture. Myself or Dr. Debbie Cunningham is the person that keeps track of our animal disease traceability program. We're going to be the ones to see the most difference, because we do get some cooperative agreement funding from USDA to help manage this program and to verify that we are using that funding properly. We have to do a lot of reporting. So Dr. Cunningham takes care of that. But either of us, you can also go on to USDA's website and gradually drill down to their veterinary services, and it has a whole page on the animal disease traceability with a lot of documents that are very pertinent. We also will have a lot of those documents on our web page within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Well, we certainly want to thank Dr. Rod Hall, state veterinarian, for trying to give us an update on this new animal disease traceability rule that's into effect. And we look forward to visiting with him again on another occasion. And we look forward to visiting with you again next week on Sunup's Cow Calf Corner.